Hey, take off hoser, eh? This is Brian, your old pal at Tokyo Record Style, coming to you with another vinyl tag. This time I am doing Darryl from the Great White North, maybe a town in northern Ontario. He's way up there somewhere. Our friend Darryl from Northern Vinyl Guy, he put forth a fantastic Canadian stereotype list that I am going to take a stab at. I am one quarter Canadian. My beloved dearest grandfather from Winnipeg came to America when he was just 20 something years old, and he never got his US passport, and he was Canadian until the end. And we had serviettes and a Chesterfield, and we're very proud of our Canadian roots. And today I'm rocking my toque, right? This is a toque, and I'm rocking my red hoodie here in the spirit of Canada. And don't mind that it's oh shit. Oh no. I'm three-quarters American, so beware. But I want to participate in this. It's such a fun chance to get in touch with my Canadian roots and reach out to the Canadian vinyl community at large. I'm very happy to participate in this. Don't mind the LA. And I live here in Japan, so go Otani, and congrats to the Jays too. They did a great job. It was an amazing series this year, and so I hope you guys can battle through it. Should I turn it off to the side, or can you guys deal? Okay, here's the backstory. There was this commercial for Molson Canadian beer that came out in the 2000s maybe, and this guy comes on and he says, "My name is Joe, eh? And I'm a Canadian, eh? And I don't speak American, and I don't eat blubber, eh? I drink cold coconut beer, eh? Take off, hoser." And he goes on this rant about the beaver is a noble creature, and he doesn't have a president, he has a prime minister, and it's sort of this funny commercial from the early 2000s or the 90s. And Darryl took all the lines from the commercial and he turned it into a vinyl tag. I'll go through it and I'm going to participate. I'm going to bend the rules. I'm going to be a little ornery, so bear with me. Without further ado, here we go. Number one, he says here, "My name is Joe and I'm a Canadian. I'm not a lumberjack or a fur trader." And Darryl puts forth, "Show a folk music or pioneer album. In the spirit of the pioneering West, show a pioneering record." And I'm going to break the rules right off the bat, and I'm going to show an American band. This is Ween, who's done 12 country classics on CD. I don't actually own this on vinyl yet, but I noticed here this little mark down here at the bottom, and I said, what is that? It says explicit lyrics. Wait a second. This is the parental advisory that I know. I know that one. What the hell is this one? Language explicite? That's French. The reason that this is French is because this copy is from Canada. This is from my friend Grasshopper, who nominated me to do this Canadian tag. So thank you, Grasshopper. Grasshopper sent me a ton of CDs of a band that we both like. Another Ween CD. This is The Pod. And this one also, dun 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 dun, you can see in there, made in Canada. And this one is a spoof. I also happen to have this one on vinyl. If you know your Canadian singer-songwriters, you might recognize this album. This is Mean Ween, as opposed to Gene Ween or Dean Ween. This is Mean Ween. This is one of their really most out there albums. I'm going to come back to this album for another prompt, but Ween actually has a very Canadian-centric discography. They also have a record that I don't have, Live in Toronto, which I would love to have on wax. If you find it out there or on CD, let me know. It's a spoof on Count Basie and Frank Sinatra's record. I forget the title, but I'd like to get both of these records purely for that reason. That connects both Frank and Count Basie to Ween. Ween also has a record, Quebec or Quebec. How do we actually say it? Have we ever agreed upon how we say this? We say Quebec down in the States, but you guys say Quebec. Ween has named one of their albums after your great province. I have forgotten, but this cover is a spoof of a board game, maybe, that I don't know if it was popular in the States, and I could be mistaken about it, but this is one of my all-time favorite Ween records. This is an original press, very coveted. It's so strong. It opens up with "Gimme That Z-O-L-O-F-T." Chocolate Town's a classic. Alkin Road, The Argus, and If You Could Save Yourself, You'd Save Us All. Close Outside D, a great Ween record, and come on, I'm bending the rules here, but it's working, right? It's working. That's number one. A pioneering record. You got to admit, Ween are kind of, they're pioneers. They're folky-ish musical pioneers, so I think they fit the bill for a pioneering record. Number two, Joe in the Rant says, I don't live in an igloo, eat blubber, or own a dog sled. So Darryl says, show an album associated with the cold. Okay, well, I gotta go with the band. It was the winter of 65. We were hungry, just barely alive, off of The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, which is on the Brown album, 1969, that I have in my discography, but I can't seem to find in my collection. But I did find the best of, and it's got a collage of all the albums, and I think it's on this one, right? All of these albums are so great. Songs from Big Pink, this is the one that I think it's on, and so I had that one too. And yeah, so in the winter of 65, it's the story of the Confederate Army, and the morale was low, and by May 10th, Richmond fell. It was a night I remember oh so well, the night they drove old Dixie down. I was young when I first heard this song, and I always thought that they were referring to 1965, and it was only when I got a little bit older and I learned about the history of the band and Robbie and gang coming down from the Great White North to meet Levon, and I think they learned about that particular battle. The tracks, how's it go? Stoneman's cavalry came and tore up the tracks again. The tracks that were giving supplies to the front lines were destroyed by the Union. I remember Robbie reading about that like in a Mississippi library, so I thought that was really cool. Love Me the Band, what a great lineup. Garth Hudson, Richard Manuel, Rick Danko, Levon Helm, and Robbie Robertson. Killer. I love the band. They're so cool. And they're kind of, 3/4 Canadian, something like that, right? 4/5. Okay, next up, the Rant goes, I don't know Jimmy, Sally, or Susie from Canada. Okay, I assume that's getting asked. Oh, I know somebody from Canada. Do you know Harry? No, I don't know Harry, Joe, or Sally. I don't know Jim, Joe, or Mary. I don't know Jimmy, Sally, or Susie from Canada, although I'm certainly they are really nice, it says here. Darryl puts forth, show an album by a band or artist named Jimmy, Sally, or Susie. Tom, Dick, or Harry. Well, I've committed to all of the artists that I want to show on this. They are connected to Canada in some way, and I could not find an artist in my collection that started with any of these names, and I searched for hours. Darryl, you didn't make this easy for me, but I'm gonna bend the rules because I did find a Susie on a Canadian artist, Suzanne, off of Leonard Cohen's Greatest Hits, and you might recognize this great Canadian songwriter's album cover here from the last album that I showed. They spoofed Leonard Cohen's Greatest Hits record, and they talked about it once. Why did we do it? I don't know. We just wanted to do it because we liked Leonard Cohen's record. This is such a great Greatest Hits record. I don't own any other Leonard Cohen besides this one, but I'm very, very happy to own it. I don't remember where I first saw this. I feel like I've seen it in like maybe a Wes Anderson movie, or I've been seeing on this record on the wall for years, and it was only in the last year or two that I picked this up. So very happy to love this, big Leonard Cohen fan. Okay, number 4. I have a prime minister, not a president, says Joe in the Rant, and Darryl puts forth this prompt in response to that. Show an album about a politician or one that discusses a political issue. Also a little bit tricky. I went with a CD again, Neil Young's Greendale. This came out kind of in response to the Iraq War that was raging in 2001, 2, 3, and 4. I had the very good fortune to see this show at Radio City Music Hall when I was visiting New York City around that time, 2003 maybe. Yes, I have some great memories of seeing this show at Radio City, the one and only time that I've been to Radio City. I don't know if I'd call this, I'm a big Neil Young fan, and I don't know if I'd call it one of his greatest albums, but it's interesting, and it's about a little town that's on the Pacific coast. It's about a guy, the Greendale family, and they just don't like the strip mallification of their town. They talk about the people who are coming into town, and they're up to no good, and they don't have the best interest of the townspeople in mind. One of the brothers shoots a policeman. It's kind of like a little bit of a stream of consciousness that Neil Young is just kind of riffing on. I assume these might be his artworks, and it's an interesting piece, and it was an ambitious one. It's a rock opera, and Neil Young came out on stage with Crazy Horse. There's a big Broadway type kind of performance. There's some sort of camouflage can dances, and you meet the Greendales and the daughter, what's her name? Air or Wind or something. Sun, I think her name is Sun Greendale. I remember in the end, there's a big car that's driving across the stage and it says no war on the car. So we were in New York and we just stumbled upon it and we were like, oh my God, we gotta go. We didn't even know what was happening. When we saw it on the marquee, we just instantly got a scalp ticket and went and saw Greendale. And of course, Neil Young is Canadian American. This also comes with a live DVD from a show in Ireland at Vicar Street. I haven't actually watched it yet. I gotta watch it. Number 5. I speak English and French, not American, says Joe in the rant. And Darryl, in response to that, puts forth an album that has bilingual lyrics or a song that is fully in French. Okay, again, I went digging through my discography looking for some French records I could find. Bilingual records I could also find, but something that connected it to Canada was a little bit tricky. I kept digging and digging and digging until I came across a live record by the Talking Heads. The name of this band is the Talking Heads, and it's the song Psycho Killer, and it's the line, Qu'est-ce que c'est, fa fa fa, fa 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 fa. And then there's another lyric down, there's a verse down the way that Je me lance vers la gloire, okay, yeah, and there's a few more French lyrics in the song, but you know the lyric, Qu'est-ce que c'est, fa 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 fa. And that was written by Tina Weymouth's mother, who was French. But not only is that the only French connection to this song, David Byrne was born in Scotland, and he lived from like the ages of, I think, maybe 3 to 10 or 10 to 17 in Hamilton, Ontario. Born in Scotland in 1952, same age as my father. His family moved to Hamilton, Ontario when he was 2 or 3 years old. He lived in Canada for about 6 years before moving to Maryland. Okay, there you go. Cool. David Byrne's got some Canadian roots. So he very much, I think, fit the bill for somebody who constitutes as written a song both in English and in French. I hope you'll accept that one. Number 6. I pronounce it about, not a boot. No, you guys do say a boot. Show an album with a boot or other forms of footwear on the cover. Well, I am going with another of your treasured songwriters, Gordon Lightfoot, and his, I think, debut album from 1966. It's, I think, my one and only Lightfoot record. This had songs on it that were recorded by Jerry Lee Lewis, Paul Yarrow of Peter, Paul and Mary, Paul Weller, Conway Twitty, Connie Smith, Don McLean, and Bob Dylan, and Elvis. Oh, dude, that's some credentials right there. To have your songs recorded by not only Dylan, but also the king himself, Elvis Presley. Good grief. I love this record. I can't say that any of the songs I have them burned to memory and can sing along with every lyric, but it's a vibe, and he's got such a great voice, and his playing is really lovely, and he just looks sublimely cool here with his boots. Boots. He's got 2 boots on there. Rich Man Spiritual, The Way I Feel, First Love in Me, Changes, Early Morning Rain. I think that's the Dylan tune. And I think that one's actually been covered by many people as well. Yeah, a groovy one from United Artists. I'm really happy to have this one in my collection. Number 7, I can proudly sew my country's flag on my backpack. That's a thing that Canadians do. If you go backpack around the world, you will often meet Canadians who have a maple leaf sewn onto their backpack. And I will admit that, yes, when there's wars raging around the world that your country is partly responsible for, you get tired of talking about some of these things. You get tired of talking about American politics. And sometimes when people come and ask you, where are you from? You just say you're from Canada and move along. It's a nice little thing to have. So I thank you. Thank you very much, Canada, for letting me borrow your maple leaf flag. I've never actually sewn one on to my backpack before, but I think I have the credentials. I can sew a quarter of one on the backpack. Maybe I should make my own little. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I think that's got some legs. Okay, so Darryl puts forth an album cover that is predominantly red and white, okay, or has a maple leaf on it. Well, I have to go with a CD again. It is Under the Great White Northern Lights by The White Stripes. This is a really interesting CD that is a CD and a DVD, and it is a tour of the White Stripes in 2007, I think. No, yeah, 2007, and they decide to go to Canada. It's gotten postponed on every tour that they've had from the beginning of the White Stripes until now, and they're going to commit to not tacking it on at the end of the next tour or the beginning of the following one, they're going to make a concerted effort to go to every single province in Canada. And that's exactly what they do. And they make a video about it, and they play in coffee shops and VAs and little town halls, and sometimes even like in the most remote places. And they meet some First Nations people, and it's really fun and interesting. And they document the whole thing on the DVD. It's really, really fun. And then, of course, they like blow the roof off the mother in like Toronto and Vancouver or wherever they go. I kind of forget. A really cool one. I'm all in on the White Stripes. I got all their discography, and they're just so cool. They're just so supremely cool. And Jack White found out that he was like a quarter Nova Scotian, or he has some Nova Scotian roots. He recently wanted to get tapped into that. I read that somewhere, and he bought a house in Tulsa, Oklahoma as well. So Jack White has connections to Tulsa, and he has connections to Canada, just like yours truly. The family is waking up, so I will have to continue this in just a little bit. Pause. Okay, rolling again after a little guitar lesson with my daughter. Number 8 on the Canadian Stereotype list, the protagonist of the Molson beer commercial, Joe. He says, "I believe in peacekeeping, not policing." Darryl puts forth the prompt in response to that. A song either about peace, that promotes peace, or was played for a cause, something like Live Aid. Well, again, trying to keep it connected to Canada, I am going with U2's The Joshua Tree. Now, why the lads from Ireland? They're surely not Canadian. Well, this album has Where the Streets Have No Name, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, With or Without You, and a bunch of other songs. And it was produced by the Canadian producer Daniel Lanois, who produced so many great albums. And though this record was produced by Jimmy Iovine and not by Daniel Lanois, it famously is the semi-live, semi-studio session of the Joshua Tree tour, Rattle and Hum, which was one of my favorite records as a kid. It has some interviews on it. Famously, there's what has happened since the recording of the last album, the Joshua Tree album, the tour, and now this. And the boys all, they laugh at each other. You take this one. And it's got Helter Skelter, Van Diemen's Land, which is about Tasmania and about the plight of the people that were banished to Tasmania. I think that might constitute an answer here. It's got Angel of Harlem, Heartland, and again, it's just talking about this mythical America that U2 was so inspired by. And it has the song Pride, in the name of love. And it's the story of Martin Luther King Jr. It talks about his unfortunate assassination, and because he was an advocate of peace and civil justice and civil rights, I think that will serve for a song about peace. So, two-parter, Daniel Lanois, Jimmy Iovine, U2, Joshua Tree, Rattle and Hum, Pride in the Name of Love. Okay, number 9, diversity, not assimilation, says in the commercials Joe. Name a band or duo that is either biracial, multi-ethnic, or made up of members from multiple countries. And I am choosing Cheech and Chong's Wedding Album, a classic comedy album from the stoned out duo. This is so hilarious. Cheech, of course, is from, I want to say, Southern California. He might be from Mexico. And Tommy Chong, of course, is from Canada. He's, I think, half Chinese, and I forget in the story of Tommy Chong, but I know he's Canadian. So this is their hilarious comedy record where they're in the tuxedo together, and they're married to a woman with a bag over her head. And it's this beautiful embossed wedding album here with this photo inside a frame here, and it's got the proper wedding pics and the ceremony itself, and the the throwing of the bouquet, and the family photos, and the cutting of the cake, and so on. It's pretty hilarious. This is just so funny. These guys were such a riot, and I loved them. There they are in their double-breasted tuxedo for two, and their bride with the bag over her head with they're at the toilet. These two, I just heard that they're trying to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they absolutely should be inducted. And oh my God, this is just filled with gems. Oh, championship wrestling, the funny sort of illicit. And in this corner, come on, baby. Oh, shh, quiet, your mom's gonna hear us. And Black Lassie, and oh my God, Cheech and Chong's wedding album. So great. Tommy Chong and Cheech Marin. Tommy being from Canada, it's so much comedy spirit in Canada, so Tommy Chong is one of them. Okay, this is the most hilarious prompt. A beaver is a truly proud and noble animal. I don't know if I can call a beaver a noble animal, but okay, fine. I love beavers. Grew up with some beaver tail pastry that my grandfather would bring back every summer. And yeah, I know you guys are the land of beavers. So a noble creature. So show an album with a animal on it, with a trustworthy or a noble creature on it. It may even be mythical. Okay, well, I am going with Steppenwolf, this very weird 12-inch single that has one song on one side and two on the other. Born to be Wild, The Pusher. I think I'm going to play this tonight at tonight's DJ set. And Magic Carpet Ride. And I actually quite love the graphics here. It's really simple. It seems sort of like a knockoff of something or a low-budget MCA record with the kind of awful rainbow label. But a really groovy 12-inch that I have, and I dig the cover a lot with a Steppenwolf on it. Steppenwolf. I learned what a Steppenwolf is. It's German. A Steppenwolf is primarily known as the title character in Hermann Hesse's 1927 novel, representing a man torn between his wild, instinctual, wolf-like nature, the wolf of the steppes, okay, that must be the German steppes, and his civilized, intellectual, human side. I haven't read Steppenwolf, so I might have to go back and read that. Hermann Hesse. And then, because it's the land of beavers, and this doesn't really have much of a connection to Canada, but it does to Darryl, who is a giant Primus fan. So I had to pull out my copy of Songs from the Punch Bowl, and this album famously has Winona's Big Brown Beaver on it. So this is the kind of interesting alternate cover that I don't see all that much, and I bought this back at the day at Amoeba for $15, $14.95, and it's probably worth a small fortune now. And very cool here with the penguins. Maybe the penguins are noble. Isn't there like a breed of penguin? The emperor penguin. That's surely noble. Nice. I think I did. That works. Yeah, sure. Don't you guys have penguins? Don't you have some? Surely they're not all down there. You guys have some penguins up there, no? Okay, fun. Okay, number 11. A toque is a hat. A Chesterfield is a couch, says the protagonist. These are funny Canadian isms that I actually grew up with. My grandfather had a Chesterfield in his house, a sofa. We had serviettes and we ate persimmons. And so anyway, this one was a fun one. And Darryl puts forth this prompt. An album cover with someone wearing something on their head or somebody sitting on a couch or a chair. Well, I was going to pick the Gordon Lightfoot record, Lightfoot, but I opted not to. I found an even better record, and that is fellow Canadian, to my Canuck friends out there, Joni Mitchell's Mingus. This record is sublime. It is super, super good. And one of the great outcomes of doing these vinyl tags is that we get to revisit records in our collection that we haven't heard in a long time. And I hadn't heard this since I bought it, and I was reminded just how amazing it is. I don't know the total history behind Joni Mitchell's relationship with Mingus, but I know they got on real well. I assume there's probably heaps of recordings of the two of them. I think when I bought this, I assumed it was Joni and Mingus, but he actually doesn't really play on this record. There's recordings of him speaking at birthday parties and pontificating on various things on the album in sort of spoken word pieces, but it has a list of stone cold killers on it. Stanley Clarke is who is playing. Oh, and of course, Jocko is playing all over it. It's really gorgeous. Joni is in full effect singing the most beautiful jazz vocals. It's really, really cool. This is a Japanese pressing with the Japanese insert and the lyrics. It has some nice paintings. Of course, she, I assume, did the cover, and there's a really nice painting of Mingus in here. It looks so much like him. The crazy thing is that there is a song on the first side, A Chair in the Sky. So that suits the Chesterfield prompt. And for a toque or a hat, here he is on the back wearing a hat in his wheelchair, and the last song is Goodbye Poor Cat. So this song has a hat song on it. It also has a chair song on it, and it also has a picture, a painting by Joni herself of Mingus, I assume, in his chair and hat in memory of Charles Mingus. Yeah, I think he died just shortly after this record came out. This one's good. If you don't have this one in your collection, this one is well worth picking up. Thank you for doing this so that I could find this record again. That was really the highlight of putting this thread together, is rediscovering this record in my collection. I had to also pull out this awesome Mingus record that I really love. Better Get It in Your Soul. It's got the vertical double gatefold, and it's just so cool. I've had this for years. I've had this since I was 20-something, and I just saw this cover, and I was like, I am meant to take this home. This is some homework. And it's really good. I got it for $9.50. I wonder what it's worth now. Man, what a beast. And I just found out that Mingus is a quarter Hong Kongese, a quarter British, a quarter Swedish, and a quarter African American. And he was buried in India, I think. I think he was, his ashes were taken to India and spread at the head of the Ganges River, his last wishes, which he actually talks about on that Joni record. So, yeah, big fan of Charlie Mingus. Number 12. It's pronounced Zed, not Z, as we say in America. Darryl says, show 2 albums in which the band name or the artist name or has a member in the band whose last name starts with the letters A and Z. Okay, you're not making this easy for us, Darryl. I had to dig deep here, but to satisfy the A prompt, I'm going with Andy Schauf. Okay, last name, first name, I'm bending the rules here. Andy Schauf is from Regina, Saskatchewan. I've collected almost all of his records without ever knowing that he was Canadian. And this is his most recent record from 2023. I just picked it up not that long ago. It's really fantastic. I'm just learning about him. I've kind of fallen head over heels. A couple years ago, my friend Caroline, who helps me with the Tokyo Record Style newsletter, turned me on to Andy Schauf. All of his records are concept albums. And the first one is about a party and it's all the characters of a party. The second one is called Neon Skyline, and it was this bar that he often frequented. And this one has an interesting story in that it's called Norm, and it was meant to be an unconcept album, and somehow a concept just emerged out of it. And Norm is this villain. He's this guy who ends up stalking this girl, and he's wishing that he could talk to her on the telephone, and it's kind of dark and brooding, but it's very cool and beautiful too. So Andy Schauf, if you don't know Andy Schauf, he's Schauf, very great, cool artist from Saskatchewan. Good grief. The letter Z, I had to go with Zalman Janowski of Loving Spoonful, one of the founders of Loving Spoonful. I don't know where this record came from. I must have inherited this from my folks. I know that my mom loved the Loving Spoonful. This is the best of Loving Spoonful. Volume 2. Didn't they do Is in the Grave and John Sebastian, who famously played Woodstock. I don't really remember the Lovin' Spoonful. They were way before my time. But, you know, they were a little Beatley. They were a little Birdsy. They were a little Beach Boy-y. And they just had some, I don't know. I can't really speak much about the Lovin' Spoonful. A little Monkeys-ish. But they had these 4 characters. And one of the founders, the lead guitar player, his name was Zalman Janowski. And he was from Canada. I think everybody except for maybe one member of the band was from Canada. So there you go. The A and Z. Okay, next one. Canada is the second largest landmass in the whole entire world. So name any song with the lyric of a Canadian place name, Canadian geographic location, Canadian landform, or landform region. Okay, Darryl, we'll make sure it features one of those. A landform region or a famous Canadian landmark. Okay, well, I'm going with one of the most recently acquired records in my collection. This is the Rheostatics, which I don't know well. In fact, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it quite right. Rheostatics are a supergroup of sorts, a collective of members from other bands, one of whom is the guitar player from Rush, who's not Neil Peart and not Geddy Lee. They have a record from 1995 that was very popular, and it had something to say about what was happening in the world at that moment. It was sort of a social or political statement, and forgive me if that's not the right year. But they wanted to recreate the spirit of that record, and this was released in 2025, and apparently it's their 16th record. And these, of course, are the Great Lakes. Oh, God, don't make me name them all. Michigan, Ontario, Huron, Superior. I'm forgetting one. Yeah, that shows you how well I'm aware of the Great Lakes. And this is the Posse, and this is a great, interesting record. The Great Lake Suites, and it's got some songwriting and some sort of folk, but also ambient and environmental and atmospheric vibes, and it has Laurie Anderson with some spoken word on it. It also has some First Nations type voices on it, and it's a very interesting record. You feel like you have sat through a interpretive performance type piece by the time you're listening to this record. This could possibly be my favorite record of 2025. Very, very highly recommended. The Rheostatics. Is that going to come in? The Great Lakes Suite. Thank you very much. This was VCLT from my homie Mark Lassman. Thank you very much for sending this to me. I have a feeling it cost him more to get the record to me than it did to actually get the record. So anybody who has sent records all the way to Japan or has sent me a postcard or a sticker or something, thank you so much. It's not easy on the pocketbook to send things all the way to Japan. So thank you very much, Mark. It's a great record. Very happy to have this in my collection. I did mention that the intention of the album is to shine a light on Canada and United States relationship and this region that we actually share together. And it is a response to the state of political and social activity right now. And it's meant to be a message of friendship, shared history, and shared place. Uh-oh, this could be a little bit trouble. We're entering hockey territory here. The First Nation of Hockey, says Joe in the commercial. An album cover or song that depicts any Canadian sports team name in it. Okay, these names can be from any of the major sports leagues in Canada, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, etc., etc. And I am going with my copy of Santo and Johnny. Santo and Johnny, I believe, are Americans. They play the song Sleepwalk da, 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 na, 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 on the slide guitar. And oh man, it's such a haunting, cool song. And you can go watch Santo and Johnny doing it on Bandstand or whatever it's called. But because it is made in Winnipeg, my Canadian roots place, and because it's Canadian, I'm going to count that towards the Montreal Canadiens, the NHL team who you guys have in Montreal. Now, I don't really know. You guys have a nickname for them. You call them something else. If you're in the know, you call them by a different name. But I know that one of the most famous Montreal Canadiens, Patrick Roy, R-O-Y, Patrick Roy, St. Patrick, came and played for the Denver Avalanche for many years. And I know that Canada hated, that's one of its very, very best, came and played goalie for the Avalanche for so many years. You know, even has that name, Patrick Roy, and everybody pronounced it Patrick Roy down in the States. And I had the very good fortune to go see him play a few times. Yeah, it was very cool. So the Montreal Canadiens on my Canadian-American pressing of Santo and Johnny. I hope that will work. From Winnipeg. I love to close sets with this song. Okay, getting to the end here. The Rant says, Canada's the best part of North America. Well, those are fighting words, but Darryl says here, show either the 24th album alphabetically in your collection. Why is that? I've forgotten why. 24th album in your collection. Oh, because it's a 24 pack of beer, right? A brick of beer or whatever. You guys have a special nickname for them. Or an album or song about beer or whiskey, Canadian whiskey, right? Okay, so Canadian whiskey. My grandfather loved Crown Royal, you know. I remember I always used to get the purple bags from him, and we had Labatt's and we had Molson and we had all those beers down in the States, and we used to get them from time to time. But I graduated from booze nearly a decade ago, and I don't partake anymore. So I thought rather than sharing a song about beer or whiskey, I would share a song about sobriety. So I am going again with Neil Young. The Neil Young you have to feature at least twice on this tag. And I'm going both with Harvest and with Tonight's the Night, my favorite Neil Young record. But Harvest has on it The Needle and the Damage Done. It was about his friend who died, Danny Whitten, I think was his name. He was the guitar player for Crazy Horse, just got strung out, and he had some physical condition that he was trying to remediate, and he just got wrapped up, and he famously got fired one night, and he just couldn't keep up in the sessions. He died, I think, less than a day later. And Neil Young talks about the grief and the guilt that he felt about losing his friend, because he sort of shushed him out of the recording sessions and said, you come back when you got it more together. And the next day he was gone. And that must have been a really heavy weight to carry. I know that probably that maybe changed the course of Neil Young's attitude a little bit. He talks about, is it better to burn out or to fade away in an interview at one point? And he says, yeah, maybe burnout is, that's rock and roll. But if you got kids and families, and, Neil Young famously has that concert that he hosts up in Northern California. And he's, I think he's kind of a family guy. He's just, sort of national treasure of both America and Canada. It's probably only because he got a little bit straightened up, and maybe the loss of his friend helped with that a little bit. So rest in peace, Danny, or forgive me if I've forgotten your name, and long live your music, and thank you for contributing to this music. Tonight's the Night has like a letter, I think, on the inside. I think there's like a letter that Neil writes, laments, maybe after his passing, and he's got a little bit of some cautionary tales in there. The needle and the damage done. Whew. Tonight's the night. This one also has Albuquerque on it, which I love. Albuquerque. Come on, baby, let's go downtown. Let's go downtown. Okay, we're at the end. I did it. Darryl, thank you so much. This was so fun. Okay, number 16, last but not least, an apologetic or thankful or polite song. So Canadians famously have the reputation for being the most friendly nation in the world. They're always sorry for all the things that they, do, and they are very sweet people. I'm very proud of my Canadian roots for these reasons. Everybody who I know who's Canadian is just, I know you guys are all kinds and colors, but everybody who I've met has been just won me over with their Canadian charm. I'm going to bend the rules again. I'm actually going to go with my favorite band, Fish, who has played in Canada a handful of times, most definitely. I can't recall if there have been particularly noteworthy shows, but the reason that I've picked their, I think, 14th and 15th albums, Fuego and Big Boat, respectively, is because they were produced by another Canadian producer, Bob Ezrin. These represent a time when Fish kind of went away and came back, and this is kind of when I discovered them again, and I really love this record, Fuego, a really fantastic one. A great one to start with if you haven't checked out Fish before. A really great record. A record that I would say is not really beloved by all Fish fans is Big Boat. Big Boat has the song on it that I'm going to answer Darryl's prompt with. It's not necessarily an apologetic song or a song about politeness or thankfulness, but it is a song about Trey's sister passing, and the name of the tune is Miss You. He says, my life keeps on changing, but you stay the same, and I miss you. I see you on my picture frame, and I miss you. I see you in the faces of people walking by. You're everywhere. And it's this very, very sweet, beautiful, gentle sentiment. I don't know if it's particularly thankful or sorrowful, apologetic. It really touches me in the same way that my Canadian friends' gentleness and sweetness and kindness always touches me. So that is off of Fish's Big Boat. Okay, I did it. How did I do? Did I do okay? I bent some of the rules. I wore my toque. Yes, it has the LA thing on it, but that's the way it goes. But I did my best, and it was so much fun. And I really, really appreciate Darryl putting this great tag forward. And I appreciate in the last 2 years of being in the vinyl community and learning that there's so many Canadians out here. I've had a bunch of you guys reach out to me and say like, hey, I'm happy to see you connect with your Canadian roots. And I don't think I've had this much Canada in my life since my grandfather's passing nearly 10 years ago. So I really, really am happy to participate here and to be connected to all the music lovers across the Great White North. So thank you once again, Darryl. Great tag. And thank you, Grasshopper, for nominating me for this. I hope you do yours too. I hope you might be inspired to do the Canadian Stereotype Vinyl Tag yourself, and like and follow and all that stuff. And until next time, I'll see you out there in the Great White North. Okay, bye. Oh, she sure was a beauty, eh? Cool, cool, cool. She's over, eh? Yeah, take off, hoser. I'm not a hoser. Hey, take off, eh?